An organized life is not something you build in a single day. It is built the moment you stop making excuses and finally decide to take control. And if you are listening to this right now, something tells me you already know that. You have felt it. That quiet frustration sitting in your chest when you look around and realize things are slipping. Tasks are piling up. Your energy feels scattered. You keep telling yourself you will get to it tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps looking exactly like today. Sound familiar? You are not alone. Millions of people feel the same way, and here is what most of them never hear. It is not your fault that life got messy, but it is your responsibility to clean it up. And the good news? You absolutely can. In this video, you are going to learn why most people stay trapped in disorder and, more importantly, how to finally force yourself to organize your life. You will discover how to stop running from the things that need your attention, how to take back control of your time, how to clear the distractions that are quietly stealing your focus, how to stay organized even when life gets hard, and how to build habits that actually keep your life on track, not just for a week, but for years. If you are tired of feeling overwhelmed, if you are ready to bring more order, more clarity, and more peace into your daily life, stay with me until the very end. What you are about to hear could completely change how you manage your days and shape your future. And honestly, it might be exactly what you have been needing to hear for a long time. Chapter 1. Stop letting your life fall apart. One of the hardest things to admit is that life does not fall apart all at once. It does not collapse in a single dramatic moment. It happens slowly, quietly, little by little. A missed task turns into a missed week. A messy room becomes a stressful environment you dread walking into. An unpaid bill becomes a bigger problem that keeps growing in the background. A delayed decision becomes a lost opportunity you can never get back. Have you noticed that in your own life? That slow slide where one small thing leads to another, and before you know it, everything feels heavier than it should. Most people do not wake up one morning and decide to live in disorder. That is not how it works. They simply stop paying attention to the small things. They let one thing slide, then another, and over time, those small things begin stacking up. They start controlling your schedule. They start affecting your mood. They start shaping how you see yourself. If you want to organize your life, the first step is not buying a planner. It is not downloading the latest productivity app. It is not creating some perfect color-coded schedule. The first step is being honest. Truly, deeply honest. You have to look at your life exactly as it is right now, not as you wish it was, not as you hope it will magically become someday. You have to see it clearly, without filters, without excuses. Ask yourself some difficult questions. And I mean, really sit with these for a moment. Are there things you have been avoiding? Are there responsibilities sitting in the back of your mind every single day, quietly demanding attention? Are there conversations you know you need to have, but keep pushing off? Are there goals you talk about constantly, but never actually start working toward? Are there areas of your life that create a knot of stress in your stomach every time you think about them? Be honest. Has that ever happened to you? That moment where you realize you have been running from something for weeks, maybe months, and the weight of it is starting to affect everything else. Many people stay busy all day long but still feel completely stuck. They move from one distraction to the next. They scroll through their phones for hours. They watch videos. They complain about being tired, yet the important things, the things that would actually change their situation, remain untouched. Deep down, they know exactly what needs attention. They can feel it, but they keep pushing it away because dealing with it feels uncomfortable. The problem is not a lack of intelligence. It is not a lack of ability. You are smart enough. You are capable enough. The problem is that avoiding things feels easier in the moment. It feels like relief. But every avoided responsibility comes with a cost, and that cost is bigger than most people realize. It sits in your mind. It drains your energy, even when you are not thinking about it directly. It steals your focus. It creates a low-level pressure that follows you everywhere you go. You know what that feels like, right? You sit down to relax, maybe watch something, maybe spend time with people you care about, but your mind keeps whispering about unfinished work. You try to enjoy your day, but there is this nagging feeling that something important is waiting for you. You wake up in the morning and already feel behind before your feet even hit the floor. That is not because life is attacking you. That is not because the universe is working against you. That is because unfinished responsibilities are constantly asking for your attention. They do not go away just because you ignore them. They wait, and they grow. But here is the good news, and I really need you to hear this. Your life can start changing much faster than you think. Not because everything becomes perfect overnight. That is not how it works. It changes because the moment you stop running from what needs to be done, you begin taking back control. And that shift, that single decision to stop avoiding and start facing, is more powerful than you can imagine. Think about how powerful that really is. One decision can start the entire process. One action can create momentum where there was none. One organized space can change how you feel when you walk into a room. One completed task can give you a surge of confidence you have not felt in months. One honest conversation can remove weeks or even months of stress that has been sitting on your shoulders. Have you ever experienced that? That incredible relief when you finally do the thing you have been putting off? How it almost never turns out to be as bad as you imagined. Hold on to that feeling because we are going to build on it. People often underestimate how much emotional weight they carry every single day. Every unfinished commitment takes up space in your mind. Every broken promise you make to yourself, even the small ones, weakens your confidence just a little bit more. Every ignored responsibility creates tension that you carry in your body, in your thoughts, in your mood. Over time, that tension becomes normal. You live with it for so long that you forget what peace actually feels like. You forget what it is like to go to bed without a list of worries running through your head. You forget what it is like to wake up feeling genuinely ready for the day. Organizing your life is not only about creating order around you, it is about creating peace inside you. When you know where things belong, your mind feels calmer. When you know what needs to be done and you are actually doing it, your focus becomes sharper. When you keep your word to yourself, even in small ways, your confidence begins to grow in ways that surprise you. That is why personal organization is really about self-respect. It is a way of saying that your future matters. It is a way of proving that your goals deserve real attention, not just daydreaming. It is a way of showing yourself that your life is worth managing with care. Many people wait until life becomes genuinely painful before they make changes. They wait until they are completely overwhelmed. They wait until deadlines are missed and consequences appear. They wait until relationships become strained. They wait until stress becomes unbearable and their body starts sending warning signals. Does that sound like something you've done? Waited until things got really bad before finally deciding to act? But wisdom says something different. Wisdom says to act before the situation becomes serious, to address things while they are still small, to pay attention before problems become emergencies. Start paying attention to the small things around you. Look at your environment right now. Notice what is creating unnecessary stress. Notice what is quietly draining your energy day after day. Notice what keeps getting postponed, moved to tomorrow, pushed to next week. Then start addressing those things one by one. And please hear this part carefully. Do not try to fix everything today. That approach almost always leads to frustration and burnout. You get excited. You try to reorganize your entire life in one afternoon, and then you crash. That is not sustainable. Instead, focus on progress. Focus on one area. Focus on one task. Focus on one responsibility. Then finish it. Actually complete it. The feeling you get from genuine completion is incredibly powerful. It reminds you that you are capable. It reminds you that you are not as stuck as you thought. It reminds you that forward motion is always possible. Many people spend years wishing their lives were different. Very few spend that same time creating the systems and habits that make different results actually possible. Success is not built on wishes. Confidence is not built on wishes. An organized life is absolutely not built on wishes. It is built on daily actions that are repeated consistently, even when they feel boring, even when no one is watching. There will be days when you do not feel motivated. There will be days when you would rather avoid every responsibility on your list. There will be days when distractions seem so much more appealing than the work in front of you. That is completely normal. You are human. Human beings do not always feel like doing what is necessary. The difference is that people who build organized, successful lives learn how to act even when they do not feel like it. They do not wait for inspiration. They do not wait for the perfect mood. They simply begin. Every time you choose action over avoidance, you become a little bit stronger. Every time you finish what you started, you build trust in yourself. Every time you bring order to one area of your life, you create momentum that flows into the next area. The person you want to become is not created by dramatic overnight changes. That person is created through small daily decisions. Decisions to clean up what has been neglected. Decisions to face problems directly instead of looking away. Decisions to stop making excuses. Decisions to take responsibility even when it is uncomfortable. Your life deserves your attention. Your goals deserve your effort. Your future deserves structure. Stop waiting for the perfect moment because it will never arrive. Stop hoping things will somehow organize themselves. Stop assuming tomorrow will automatically be better if you keep doing the same things today. Take control of what is in front of you right now. Handle what you have been avoiding. Finish what needs to be finished. Put things where they belong. Make decisions today that your future self will genuinely appreciate. Because the moment you stop letting your life fall apart piece by piece is the exact moment your life starts coming together. And that moment, it can begin today, right now, with you. Chapter 2. Face the mess you keep avoiding. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to organize their lives is not because they are lazy. Let me say that again, because I need you to really hear it. It is not because you are lazy. It is not because you lack talent. It is not because you are somehow incapable of getting your life together. The real reason is much deeper than any of those things. And once you understand it, everything starts to shift. The real reason is this. You keep avoiding things you know you should face. Have you ever done that? Have you ever looked at something that clearly needed your attention, felt that uncomfortable tightness in your chest, and then just turned away? Told yourself you would deal with it later? Told yourself it was not that urgent? Be honest with yourself right now, because this is where real change begins. Human beings have a natural tendency to move toward comfort and away from discomfort. That is built into us. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And in many situations, that instinct serves us well. But when it comes to organizing your life, that instinct can become your biggest enemy. Because here is the truth. Many of the things that would genuinely improve your life are uncomfortable in the beginning. Looking at your finances honestly can feel deeply uncomfortable. Opening that bank account you've been avoiding, seeing the real numbers, facing where your money has actually been going, that takes courage. Cleaning a space that has been neglected for weeks or even months can feel overwhelming before you even start. Just the thought of it makes you want to close the door and walk away. Opening messages you have been ignoring, whether they are emails, texts, or letters sitting in a pile, can feel uncomfortable. You do not know what they contain. You are not sure you are ready to deal with what might be inside. Dealing with responsibilities that have been sitting unfinished for far too long can feel like standing at the bottom of a mountain. You look up and all you see is how far you have to climb. Does any of that resonate with you? Have you ever felt that heaviness when you think about something you have been putting off? Yet here is what most people do not realize. Every single time you avoid these things, they become heavier, not lighter, heavier. Avoidance does not make problems smaller. It makes them grow. It feeds them. It gives them more power over your thoughts, your energy, and your peace of mind. Think about how many people wake up every morning carrying invisible pressure. They smile around others. They go through their daily routine. They try to stay positive and keep it together on the outside. But deep inside, there are things they know need attention. There are tasks they keep delaying. There are decisions they keep postponing. There are areas of life they keep hoping will somehow magically improve without any real action. Has that ever been you? Walking around with a smile on your face while inside you are carrying the weight of everything you have been avoiding. That hidden pressure follows you throughout the entire day. It affects your energy levels. It affects your ability to focus. It affects how you feel about yourself when you are alone with your thoughts. A person can look completely successful on the outside while feeling totally overwhelmed on the inside. They may have goals. They may have dreams. They may have the best intentions in the world. But there is a growing pile of unfinished business sitting quietly in the background. getting a little taller every single day. Every day that pile grows. Every day it whispers for your attention. Every day it steals a little more of your peace of mind. The truth is painfully simple. The things you avoid do not disappear. They do not pack up and leave because you chose not to look at them. They wait. They sit patiently in the background of your life until you finally deal with them. Ignoring a problem has never once solved it. Delaying a responsibility has never once removed it. Looking away from disorder has never once created order. Time alone cannot fix what requires your action. Many people spend years searching for motivation when what they actually need is courage. Not the dramatic movie-style courage, the quiet kind, the everyday kind. Courage to open that drawer filled with paperwork you have been pretending does not exist. Courage to look at the bank account you have avoided checking for weeks. Courage to admit that certain habits you have are creating unnecessary problems in your life. Courage to face your reality exactly as it is, without sugarcoating it, without making excuses for it. There is something genuinely powerful that happens when you stop running from what needs your attention. You begin to feel stronger, not because the problem immediately disappears the moment you look at it. That is not how life works. But because you are no longer allowing it to control you from the shadows. The moment you face something directly, you take away some of its power over your mind. You shrink it back down to its actual size instead of the enormous monster your imagination turned it into. Have you ever experienced this? Think about a task you delayed for weeks, or maybe even months. Before you finally sat down to do it, it probably felt huge in your mind. It felt stressful just thinking about it. You probably imagined it would take forever and drain every ounce of your energy. Then eventually, maybe because you had no other choice, you sat down and handled it. And what happened? Often you discovered that the task itself was not nearly as painful as the mental burden of avoiding it. The actual doing took far less time and energy than the weeks of dreading it. This happens in people's lives every single day. The fear of dealing with something becomes much larger than the thing itself. Your mind is incredibly creative when it comes to avoidance. It creates stories about why now is not the right time. It creates excuses that sound perfectly reasonable. It creates compelling reasons to wait just a little longer. Meanwhile, absolutely nothing improves. Days pass. Weeks pass. Sometimes entire years pass. Organizing your life requires a completely different approach. It requires becoming the kind of person who faces things early instead of late. A person who handles problems while they are still small and manageable. A person who addresses responsibilities before they snowball into emergencies. A person who refuses to let avoidance become their default strategy for dealing with life. That change starts with honesty, raw, uncomfortable honesty. You have to stop pretending that everything is fine when you know deep down that certain areas of your life are screaming for attention. You have to stop making excuses for habits that are clearly creating disorder. You have to stop telling yourself that tomorrow will somehow be different if you keep doing the exact same things you did today. Real growth begins when you look directly at your situation, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, "This needs my attention, not next month, not next year, today." Many people underestimate how much genuine confidence comes from handling unfinished business. Every time you complete something you have been avoiding, you strengthen your belief in yourself. You prove something to yourself that no motivational quote or inspiring video could ever give you. Every time you face a difficult situation head-on instead of turning away, you build emotional strength that stays with you. Every time you deal with a responsibility instead of postponing it, you become more reliable in your own eyes. Self-confidence is not created by positive thinking alone. That is a beautiful idea, but it is incomplete. Real confidence grows when you prove to yourself, through your actions, that you can be trusted. Trusted to follow through on what you say you will do. Trusted to make difficult decisions when they need to be made. Trusted to handle challenges instead of hiding from them. Trusted to face reality even when reality is uncomfortable. Imagine walking into a room that has been completely disorganized for a long time. Papers are scattered across every surface. Items are out of place. Everything feels chaotic and overwhelming. At first, the mess seems impossible. Where would you even begin? But then you start, one item at a time, one section at a time, one small decision at a time. Gradually, the room begins to change. The surfaces become visible again. The environment becomes clearer. The stress that filled the space begins to fade. The exact same thing happens in life. You do not need to solve every single problem today. You do not need to organize every area of your existence in one heroic afternoon. You simply need to stop avoiding the next thing that requires your attention. Just the next thing. That is all. Many people make the mistake of waiting until they feel completely ready before they begin. But let me share something important with you. Readiness is often a myth. It is a story we tell ourselves to justify waiting a little longer. The truth is that action creates readiness. Movement creates momentum. Progress creates confidence. You rarely feel ready before you start. You feel ready after you have already begun. The longer you wait, the harder everything seems. The sooner you begin, the easier it becomes to keep going. That is not just a motivational phrase. That is how human psychology actually works. Momentum is real, and it works in your favor once you get moving. There is a reason truly organized people appear calmer than everyone else. It is not because they have fewer responsibilities. In many cases, they actually have more on their plate than the average person. The difference is that they deal with things. They do not allow tasks to pile up endlessly. They do not let small problems grow into large ones while they look the other way. They make decisions. They take action. They stay actively engaged with their own lives. You have the ability to do exactly the same thing. These skills are not reserved for some special group of naturally organized people. Organization is not a talent that a lucky few are born with. It is a habit. It is a choice. It is a daily practice of facing reality instead of avoiding it. There will always be something that demands your attention. There will always be responsibilities you would rather not deal with. There will always be challenges you did not plan for. That is simply part of being alive. The goal is not to eliminate responsibility. The goal is to become stronger in how you respond to it. Every time you face something you have been avoiding, you send yourself a deeply important message. You remind yourself that you are capable. You remind yourself that you can handle difficult situations. You remind yourself that your future is more important than your temporary comfort. Your life changes when avoidance stops being your go-to strategy. Your life changes when facing things head-on becomes your natural response. Your life changes when you stop hoping problems will somehow solve themselves and start becoming the person who solves them. So here is what I want you to do. Look carefully at what you have been avoiding. Be genuinely honest about it. Write it down if you need to. Bring it out of the shadows and into the light. Give it a name. Acknowledge that it exists and that it has been taking up space in your mind for far too long. Then begin dealing with it, one step at a time, one small action at a time, because the path to an organized life is not hidden behind some complicated secret. It starts with facing the mess you keep avoiding and refusing to look away any longer. The moment you face it is the moment you begin taking your life back. And you deserve to have your life back, every single part of it. Chapter 3. Fix what you have ignored for years. There comes a point in life when you have to stop looking only at what happened this week and start looking at what has been happening for years. Because here's something most people do not want to admit. The reason life feels so heavy right now is not usually because of one bad day. It is not because of one mistake or one missed deadline. It is because certain problems have been sitting quietly in the background for a very, very long time, and you have learned to live with them. Have you ever noticed how that works? How something that once bothered you deeply can slowly become just another part of your routine. It happens so gradually that you barely notice the shift. What once felt wrong starts to feel normal. What once demanded your attention starts getting ignored. What once made you uncomfortable becomes just another thing you have accepted about your life. This is one of the biggest dangers when it comes to organizing your life, and I want you to pay very close attention to this part because it might describe exactly where you are right now. Many people are carrying issues that should have been addressed years ago. Some have neglected their health. They know something is not right. They feel it in their body. They notice the signs. But they keep telling themselves they will deal with it later, when life calms down, when things get easier. Some have neglected their finances. The numbers do not add up. The savings are not where they should be. The debt keeps quietly growing. But opening those statements feels like too much, so they stay sealed. Some have neglected their personal growth. They had dreams once, big ones, exciting ones. But somewhere along the way, those dreams got filed away under some day and never came back out. Others have neglected important relationships. People who matter, people who deserve their time and attention, have been receiving leftovers instead of their best. Does any of that hit close to home? Has there been something in your life that you know deep in your gut should have been dealt with a long time ago? There are people everywhere who have spent years living below their potential because they became comfortable with things staying unfinished. Not happy with it, not proud of it, just comfortable enough to keep going without changing anything. And that kind of comfort is one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. The mind has a strange and powerful way of adapting. If something remains unresolved long enough, it begins to feel permanent, like it was always this way, like it will always be this way. A person starts believing that their situation simply is what it is. They stop expecting improvement. They stop believing that change is actually possible for someone like them. They stop challenging the patterns that have kept them stuck in the same place year after year. Have you ever caught yourself thinking like that? Thinking that maybe this is just how your life is meant to be? That maybe things are not going to get better no matter what you do? That way of thinking is incredibly dangerous because it steals possibility right out of your hands. The moment you accept its order as your normal, you stop looking for solutions. The moment you convince yourself that nothing can improve, you stop making any effort to improve it. You surrender without even realizing you have given up. Take a close, honest look at your own life right now. Not a quick glance, a real, deep look. There may be areas that have remained unchanged for years. Maybe there is a goal that keeps getting pushed further and further into the future. Every January you say this is the year, and every December you realize nothing has changed. Maybe there is a skill you have always wanted to learn, something that excites you every time you think about it, but you have never actually started. Maybe there is a financial problem that keeps creating stress month after month, year after year, and you keep hoping it will somehow resolve itself. Maybe there is a habit that has been silently draining your energy, your health, or your happiness for longer than you want to admit. The longer something remains ignored, the easier it becomes to believe it cannot be fixed. But I need you to hear this clearly. That belief is almost always false. It feels true. It sounds true in your head. But it is not true. Most people are not trapped by their circumstances as much as they are trapped by their patterns. They repeat the same actions. They make the same decisions. They follow the same routines. They wake up the same way, spend their days the same way, react to problems the same way. Then they sit back and genuinely wonder why nothing in their life ever changes. Does that cycle sound familiar to you? An organized life requires a willingness to interrupt those patterns. It requires the courage to examine what has been neglected and ask yourself one incredibly important question. Why has this remained the same for so long? Sometimes the answer is fear. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of discovering that the problem is bigger than you thought. Sometimes it is uncertainty. You do not know where to start, so you do not start at all. Sometimes it is disappointment from past attempts. You tried before and it did not work, so you stopped believing it ever could. Sometimes it is just simple neglect. Life got busy, priorities shifted, and that thing you meant to address just kept falling further and further down the list. Whatever the reason, I want you to know something. Progress begins the moment you stop defending the problem and start confronting it, not justifying it, not explaining it away, not making peace with it, confronting it. Think about the relief people feel when they finally deal with something that has been bothering them for years. Really picture it. Maybe it is a debt they finally begin paying off. That first payment feels like removing a brick from their shoulders. Maybe it is a health issue they finally decide to address. Walking into that appointment they have been avoiding for years brings a wave of relief they did not expect. Maybe it is a dream they finally decide to pursue seriously instead of just talking about it. Taking that first real step fills them with an energy they have not felt in a very long time. Have you ever felt that kind of relief? That rush of freedom that comes not because everything is suddenly perfect, but because you finally stopped standing still, because movement replaced stagnation. One reason people stay stuck for so long is that they focus too much on how far they have to go. They look at years of neglect piled up behind them and feel completely overwhelmed. They think about all the work that will be required, and they lose every drop of motivation before they even take the first step. The mountain looks too tall, the distance looks too far, so they sit down and stop moving entirely. But here is a much better approach. Stop staring at the top of the mountain. Focus on what you can do today. Just today. Years of disorder do not have to be solved in a single week. A neglected area of your life improves through consistent effort, not dramatic overnight transformations. One decision today, one action today, one small improvement today, that is all it takes to start. The person who transforms their life is not always the smartest person in the room. It is not always the most talented or the most connected. It is often simply the person who finally decides that enough is enough. The person who becomes tired of making the same excuses. The person who becomes sick of watching opportunities pass them by while they stand on the sidelines. The person who refuses to spend another year, another month, another single week living the exact same way. There is something incredibly powerful about reaching that point. Have you reached it yet? That moment where something inside you shifts and you say, I am done living like this. When you stop negotiating with your weaknesses and start demanding more from yourself, everything changes. Your mindset begins to shift. You start seeing possibilities where you once only saw limitations. You begin noticing opportunities that were always there but went completely unnoticed because you were too busy focusing on your frustrations. Many people spend years wishing for confidence. They want to feel sure of themselves. They want to feel capable and strong. Yet confidence does not appear out of thin air. Confidence grows when you solve problems that have been waiting for your attention. Every challenge you finally handle becomes evidence that you are capable of far more than you gave yourself credit for. Every improvement, no matter how small, strengthens your belief in yourself. Your future is heavily influenced by the things you choose to address today. A small improvement repeated over weeks and months can create dramatic, life-changing results. A new habit practiced consistently can completely transform an entire year. A better decision made daily, even a tiny one, can alter the entire direction of your life. That is not an exaggeration. That is how change actually works. That is why organizing your life is not just about color-coded calendars and neat schedules. It is about taking ownership of the areas you have neglected for far too long. It is about refusing to let another year pass without meaningful progress. It is about becoming the kind of person who acts instead of postpones, who moves instead of waits, who builds instead of wishes. Many people keep waiting for a perfect moment to begin. They think life will calm down first. They think motivation will suddenly arrive like a package at the door. They think circumstances will become easier, and then finally they will start. But life rarely works that way, does it? There will always be responsibilities. There will always be distractions fighting for your attention. There will always be perfectly reasonable-sounding reasons to wait just a little longer. The people who actually create change in their lives are the ones who stop waiting. They start exactly where they are. They work with exactly what they have. They focus on what they can actually control instead of complaining about what they cannot. You do not need a completely different life to begin moving forward. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need more money, more time, or more support. You need a different response to the challenges that are already sitting in front of you. You need a willingness to handle what has been ignored. You need the discipline to keep going even after the initial excitement wears off. You need the patience to understand that meaningful change does not happen overnight, but it absolutely does happen. Think about where you could be 1 year from now if you finally address the areas you have been neglecting. Seriously, close your eyes for a moment and picture it. Less stress weighing you down, more clarity in your mind, more confidence in your step, more control over your days, more peace when you lay your head down at night. None of those things appear by accident. They are created through intentional, daily action. They are built through taking responsibility. They are earned through showing up consistently even when it is hard. There is absolutely no benefit in carrying old problems into your future. There is no reward for delaying your own growth. There is no advantage in staying stuck exactly where you are when you have the ability to move. The sooner you begin fixing what has been neglected, the sooner your life begins moving in a direction that actually excites you. You deserve more than endless frustration. You deserve more than repeated disappointment. You deserve the chance to become the person you know deep down you are capable of being. That chance begins when you stop looking away from the parts of life that need your attention. Do not measure yourself by what you failed to do in the past. That chapter is written and it is over. Measure yourself by what you choose to do starting now. The past may explain your current situation, but it does not get to determine your future. Only you get to decide that. Face what has been waiting, repair what has been neglected, strengthen what has become weak, improve what has remained unchanged for too long. Every step forward matters, no matter how small it feels. Every effort counts, even the ones nobody else sees, because the life you truly want is often hidden right behind the things you have been ignoring for years. The moment you start fixing them is the exact moment you start building a future worth being excited about, and you deserve that future, every single part of it. Chapter 4. Take control of your day from morning one of the most important truths about living an organized life is something most people completely overlook. Your day begins long before you realize it. The way you spend the first part of your morning has a powerful, almost invisible effect on everything that follows. And most people, they never even think about it. They just wake up and let the day happen to them. Have you ever had one of those days where by noon you already feel completely drained, scattered, and behind on everything? You look at the clock and wonder where the morning went. You try to remember what you actually accomplished, and the answer is not much. You were busy the entire time, but somehow nothing important got done. That feeling is not random. It did not appear out of nowhere. In most cases, it started the moment you opened your eyes. Many people spend the rest of their day trying to recover from a poor start. They wake up late, already rushing before their feet hit the ground. They scramble through everything. They immediately start reacting to messages, notifications, and demands from other people. Before they even have a chance to think about what they want from the day, someone else has already decided for them. The day feels scattered from the very first minute. Their attention is divided in 10 different directions. Their priorities are forgotten before they were ever set. By evening, they sit down exhausted and wonder why nothing meaningful got accomplished. Does that cycle sound familiar? Have you ever reached the end of a day and realized you spent the entire thing responding to everyone else's needs while completely ignoring your own? A disorganized day rarely appears out of thin air. It almost always begins with a disorganized morning. When you start your day without any sense of direction, you spend the next several hours simply reacting instead of leading. Life starts pulling you wherever it wants. Small distractions take over before you even notice. Urgent but unimportant tasks push aside the things that actually matter. You stay constantly busy, but your real progress remains painfully small. Think about how many people wake up and immediately hand over control of their entire attention to something else. Some reach for their phones before their eyes are even fully open. Before their feet touch the floor, they are already scrolling through messages, checking social media, reading news that makes them anxious. Some begin worrying about problems before they have even gotten dressed. Their mind is already racing through a list of things that could go wrong today. Some allow stress and anxiety to set the tone for the entire day before they have taken a single intentional action. They begin each morning feeling rushed, pressured, and already behind. And when that becomes a daily habit, week after week, month after month, organization becomes nearly impossible. Here is why this matters so much. You cannot create order in your life if every single morning begins with chaos and confusion. You cannot build real momentum if your first actions every day are completely random. You cannot focus on meaningful goals if your attention is being hijacked the moment you wake up. But here is what most people miss. The morning is not just another part of the day. The morning is an opportunity, a powerful one. It is a chance to decide, before anyone else gets involved, who is going to be in charge today. Will your circumstances control your day, or will you control your response to your circumstances? That is a decision, and it is made much earlier than most people ever realize. Have you ever noticed the difference between a day that starts with intention and a day that starts with reaction? The gap between those two experiences is enormous, and it all comes down to what happens in those first moments after you wake up. There is something genuinely powerful about waking up with purpose. Not because every day needs to feel exciting or inspired. Let me be real with you. Not every morning is going to feel like a motivational movie scene. There will be mornings when you are exhausted. There will be mornings when you would rather pull the covers over your head and pretend the world does not exist. There will be mornings when motivation is completely absent, nowhere to be found, no matter how hard you look for it. But here is what people who build successful, organized lives understand. Something that changes everything once you truly get it. The quality of your future depends far more on your habits than on your feelings. Feelings come and go. They are temporary visitors. But habits? Habits are what actually build your life. Many people wait until they feel ready before they take action. They wait for that spark of inspiration, that burst of energy, that perfect mood. Organized people do the opposite. They create action first, and then the energy follows. They understand something that most people never learn. Energy often comes after movement, not before it. Momentum does not appear while you're lying in bed thinking about getting up. Momentum grows when you actually get up and start doing what needs to be done. The first hour of your day deserves serious attention because it often sets the tone for the next 12. If you begin with focus, even just a few minutes of clear, intentional thought, you dramatically increase your chances of making better decisions throughout the day. If you begin with clarity about what matters most, you reduce unnecessary stress before it even has a chance to build. If you begin with intention, you become far less vulnerable to the distractions that will inevitably try to pull you off course. Now, I want to be very clear about something, because I think a lot of people get discouraged by this topic. This does not mean your morning needs to look perfect. It does not mean you need some elaborate 2-hour morning routine with meditation, journaling, cold showers, and green smoothies. It does not require expensive tools, special programs, or any of those things you see influencers promoting online. Sometimes the most effective morning routine is beautifully simple. Wake up. Give yourself a moment to breathe. Prepare yourself for the day. Take even just 5 minutes to think clearly about what lies ahead. Decide what matters most today. Then start moving toward it. That is it. That is enough to change everything. One of the biggest reasons people feel overwhelmed throughout the day is because they never stop long enough to decide what actually deserves their attention. They skip that step entirely. Everything feels equally urgent. Every email seems critical. Every request seems like it cannot wait. Every notification feels like it demands an immediate response. The result is mental exhaustion before lunch. A much better approach is to identify just a few priorities before the day gets crowded with noise and demands. Ask yourself a simple question every morning. What absolutely needs progress today? Not what would be nice to do, not what other people want from you. What truly needs your attention? What would make today feel worthwhile when you look back on it tonight? What single task deserves your best energy and focus? These questions might seem small, but they create something incredibly valuable: direction. They give your effort a target. Without direction, people drift. They float from one activity to the next without any real purpose. Hours disappear, and they cannot account for where they went. Opportunities pass by unnoticed. Important work remains untouched, while trivial things consume all the available time. At the end of the day, frustration sets in because they were active all day long but not genuinely productive. Has that ever happened to you? Being busy for an entire day but having nothing meaningful to show for it by evening? Taking control of your morning helps break that cycle. It creates a feeling of ownership over your own time. Instead of being pulled around by circumstances like a leaf in the wind, you begin moving according to your own priorities. That shift might seem small from the outside, but it completely changes how you experience your entire day. You feel different. You carry yourself differently. You make decisions differently. Think about how different life feels when you wake up knowing exactly what you need to accomplish. There is less confusion because your mind has already been pointed in the right direction. There is less hesitation because you have already made the important decisions. There is less wasted energy because your focus has somewhere useful and meaningful to go. Many people seriously underestimate how much confidence comes from keeping simple promises to yourself in the morning. Waking up when you said you would instead of hitting snooze 4 times. Completing one important task before the distractions of the day take over. Following through on a small commitment you made to yourself the night before. These actions seem so ordinary that most people dismiss them as unimportant. But they are not ordinary at all. They build something precious, trust in yourself. And self-trust is one of the most valuable things you can possess. When you know, truly know, that you can rely on your own decisions and commitments, life becomes dramatically easier to manage. You stop second-guessing every choice. You stop creating unnecessary delays and excuses. You become more decisive because your track record proves that your intentions and your actions are actually aligned. Have you ever met someone who just seems to have their life together? Not in a flashy way, but in a quiet, steady way. They are not rushing. They are not panicking. They just seem grounded and in control. That energy does not come from having fewer problems than you. It comes from having stronger daily habits. It comes from mornings that set them up to win instead of mornings that set them up to struggle. An organized life is built on these daily moments, not on dramatic breakthroughs or sudden overnight transformations. It is built on small, almost invisible choices repeated with consistency. Getting up when the alarm goes off instead of negotiating with yourself for 20 more minutes. Preparing for the day instead of rushing through it in a panic. Focusing on your own priorities before reacting to everyone else's demands. There will always be reasons to postpone the important things. There will always be distractions fighting for every scrap of your attention. There will always be situations you did not plan for and cannot control. But your response to all of those things remains entirely within your control. That is your power. That is what no one can take from you. The person who learns to take charge of the beginning of their day gains something that cannot be overstated. They create structure where others create confusion. They create momentum where others create delay. They create real, tangible progress where others create excuses. Think about the feeling of finishing something meaningful before most people have even fully started their day. That quiet confidence that settles over you. That sense of accomplishment that whispers, you are moving forward. You are not standing still. That feeling affects everything. It influences your attitude for the rest of the day. It influences the quality of your decisions. It influences how you handle challenges when they inevitably appear. Success in life often grows from these small victories because they create belief. They remind you, in a way that nothing else can, that progress is not just possible, it is already happening. Do not underestimate the value of a strong start to your day. A powerful morning is not about perfection. Let go of that idea right now. It is about intention. It is about refusing to begin your day carelessly, like it does not matter, like the first few hours are just a warm-up. They are not a warm-up. They are the foundation. Every morning brings a new opportunity, a fresh chance to improve, a new chance to organize your life more effectively, a new chance to take one step closer to the person you are working to become. You do not need to wait for a different season of life to start. You do not need ideal circumstances that may never arrive. You do not need magically more hours in the day. You need one thing, a decision. A decision to stop giving away the most powerful part of your day to things that do not deserve it. A decision to stop drifting through your mornings on autopilot. A decision to become intentional about how you begin every single day. Because here's how the math works. When you take control of your morning, you increase your ability to take control of your afternoon. When you take control of your afternoon, you improve the quality of your evening. When you improve your days consistently, your weeks start to transform. Improved weeks create better months. Better months build a stronger year. And stronger years? They build the kind of future most people only dream about but never create. Your life is shaped one day at a time, and most of those days are shaped by how you choose to begin them. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most important steps you'll ever take toward creating a life that feels organized, focused, purposeful, and fully under your direction. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, remember this. The first decision you make sets the tone for every decision that follows. Make it count. You owe yourself that much. Chapter 5. Clear the things draining your attention. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to organize their lives is not what most people think. It is not a lack of time. It is not a lack of intelligence. It is not even a lack of opportunity. The real problem, the one that quietly destroys progress without most people ever identifying it, is that their attention is being pulled in too many directions at the same time. Have you ever sat down to work on something important, something you genuinely care about, and within 5 minutes, your mind is already somewhere else? You wanted to focus. You had every intention of getting it done, but something kept pulling you away. A notification, a thought, a worry, a random urge to check your phone. Before you knew it, 30 minutes had disappeared and you had made zero progress on the thing that actually mattered. If that has ever happened to you, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are experiencing something that millions of people deal with every single day. Your attention is under attack. And until you do something about it, organizing your life will always feel like an uphill battle. Think about this for a moment. You want to focus, but something is always competing for your mind. You want to make progress, but your energy is constantly being divided between dozens of different things. At the end of the day, you collapse feeling completely exhausted. Yet when you look back and honestly ask yourself what you accomplished, the answer is painfully small. Very little of real importance actually got done. The hours were spent. The energy was used up. But it all went to the wrong places. Attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. I want you to really let that sink in. Money can be earned again. Lost opportunities can sometimes be replaced with new ones. Time itself moves forward no matter what happens, carrying you along with it. But attention determines what you actually do with your time. It determines where your effort goes. It determines whether your days create meaningful progress or quiet frustration that builds up week after week. Many people never stop long enough to ask themselves a simple but life-changing question. What is actually draining my attention? They just accept feeling distracted as normal. They assume this is how life is supposed to feel in the modern world. They move through their days with dozens of open concerns sitting in the back of their mind, each one quietly consuming a little piece of their mental energy. Unfinished projects whispering for attention. Unresolved problems creating low-level anxiety. Constant notifications pulling them out of every focused moment. Unnecessary commitments they agreed to but never really wanted. Negative relationships that take far more than they give. Endless streams of entertainment that feel relaxing but actually leave them more drained than before. Small distractions that seem completely harmless on their own but become incredibly powerful when they all combine together. Does any of that sound like your life right now? Be honest with yourself. How many tabs are open in your mind at this very moment? Imagine trying to carry several heavy bags with you everywhere you go all day long. Eventually, your body becomes exhausted. Your muscles ache. Your steps slow down. You cannot move freely because your hands are full. Now imagine carrying mental weight in exactly the same way. Because that is what is happening inside your mind every single day. Every unfinished responsibility you are carrying demands a little piece of your attention. Every unnecessary obligation takes a little slice of your energy. Every distraction, no matter how small, asks for a piece of your focus. And before long, your mind becomes so crowded that there is no room left for the things that actually matter. When the mind becomes crowded, everything becomes harder. Clear thinking becomes difficult. Organization becomes difficult. Making even simple decisions becomes strangely exhausting. You sit down to work on something important, but your thoughts keep jumping from one thing to another like a ping-pong ball you cannot control. You try to concentrate, but your attention refuses to stay in one place for more than a few minutes. You feel busy, constantly busy, yet somehow completely disconnected from the goals that matter most to you. Has that ever frustrated you? Knowing that you have so much potential inside you but feeling like you can never quite access it because your mind is always somewhere else? The first step towards solving this problem is awareness. Simple, honest awareness. You have to identify what is actually stealing your attention before you can do anything about it. Most people, when they think about distractions, immediately jump to the obvious ones. Their phones, social media, YouTube, Netflix. And yes, those things absolutely matter. They are real attention thieves, and we should not pretend otherwise. But here is what most people miss. There are many other distractions that are far more dangerous precisely because they receive far less attention. Sometimes the biggest thing draining your focus is not your phone at all. Sometimes it is unresolved stress that has been sitting in your chest for weeks. Sometimes it is constant worry about situations you cannot control, playing the same anxious scenarios over and over in your head. Sometimes it is spending enormous amounts of mental energy thinking about what other people are doing, comparing yourself, judging yourself, measuring yourself against someone else's highlight reel. Sometimes it is holding on to old disappointments, replaying moments that hurt you, reliving conversations that went wrong months or even years ago. Sometimes it is guilt about mistakes you made in the past that you keep punishing yourself for long after the moment has passed. Have you ever caught yourself doing any of that? Spending precious mental energy on things that are already over and done? things you cannot change no matter how many times you replay them in your mind. A person can spend hours physically sitting at a desk while mentally being somewhere else entirely. Their body is right there, present in the room, hands on the keyboard, eyes on the screen. But their attention is trapped in concerns that are producing absolutely no value, no progress, no solutions, just circular thinking that drains energy and gives nothing back. Organizing your life requires protecting your attention with the same seriousness that you would protect your money. Think about that comparison. Most people are very careful about where their money goes. They check prices. They compare options. They think before making a purchase. They try to avoid wasting it on things that do not matter. Yet those same people give away their attention freely, generously, carelessly, without ever stopping to consider the cost. But every distraction comes with a price. Every interruption requires mental energy to recover from. Research has shown that after a single interruption, it can take your brain over 20 minutes to fully return to the level of focus you had before. Think about how many interruptions you experience in a single day. How many notifications? How many random thoughts? How many times someone or something pulls you away from what you were doing? Now multiply that recovery time. The numbers are staggering. Every unnecessary commitment you have said yes to is taking time and energy away from something more important. Every habit that constantly breaks your concentration is weakening your ability to think deeply and do meaningful work. Every moment you spend consuming information you will never use is a moment stolen from something that could actually improve your life. Think honestly about how many times during a typical day your attention changes direction. You begin one task, then a notification pops up, then a message arrives, then you remember something completely unrelated. Then you quickly check something online just for a second, which turns into 10 minutes. Then another thought pulls you away. Before you know it, half an hour has vanished into thin air, and this pattern repeats itself over and over throughout the entire day. This pattern creates deep frustration because somewhere inside, you know you are capable of so much more. You can feel it. You know there is potential inside you that is not being fully used. You know there are goals that deserve far better attention than they are getting. Yet the constant noise, the endless mental chatter, keeps getting in the way. So what is the solution? The solution is not becoming perfect. Please hear that. You do not need to become some kind of superhuman who never gets distracted. That is not realistic, and chasing it will only make you feel worse. The solution is becoming intentional. There is a massive difference between those two things. Start paying close attention to what consistently pulls your focus away from what matters. Observe your own habits with honest, non-judgmental eyes. Notice what happens when you sit down to do focused work. What is the first thing that interrupts you? Notice what keeps stealing your concentration throughout the day. Notice what repeatedly consumes large chunks of your time without improving your life in any meaningful way. Many people who do this exercise honestly are shocked by what they discover. They realize they are spending enormous amounts of energy on things that do not deserve it. They worry constantly about other people's opinions they cannot control, and that ultimately do not matter. They follow arguments and debates online that have absolutely nothing to do with their future. They spend hours consuming information, articles, videos, podcasts that they never actually apply to anything. They allow minor issues and petty frustrations to dominate their thinking while major goals sit untouched in the corner. Has that ever been you? Spending your best energy on things that give you nothing in return? A more organized life requires stronger boundaries around your attention, not because you want to isolate yourself from the world or become some kind of disconnected hermit, but because you want your attention working for you instead of against you. Right now, for many people, their own attention is their biggest enemy. It is fighting against their goals instead of supporting them. There is a huge difference between being informed and being distracted. There is a huge difference between staying connected to people and becoming consumed by your phone. There is a huge difference between genuine relaxation that restores your energy and escapism that drains it while pretending to help. You must learn to recognize these differences in your own life. They are subtle, but they are everything. You have to become selective about what deserves space in your mind. Not every problem requires your attention right now. Not every opportunity is worth your time today. Not every notification needs an immediate response. Not every piece of news needs to be consumed the moment it appears. The people who achieve truly meaningful progress in life, the ones who seem to accomplish more in a month than most people do in a year, they almost always have one thing in common. They know what deserves their focus, and they protect it fiercely. They understand that attention scattered across too many things produces weak results everywhere. They choose carefully. They direct their energy toward their real priorities. They ruthlessly eliminate what does not support their most important goals. This requires courage. I am not going to pretend it does not. Removing distractions from your life is not always comfortable. Sometimes it means saying no to people you care about. Sometimes it means changing habits you have had for years. Sometimes it means spending less time in environments that constantly pull you away from what matters. Sometimes it means sitting with temporary discomfort because you know the long-term reward is worth it. But the reward is absolutely worth it. A clear mind feels completely different from a cluttered one. A focused day feels completely different from a scattered one. Life becomes dramatically easier to manage when your attention is no longer being torn apart from every direction. You think more clearly. You make better decisions. You complete tasks more efficiently and with less stress. You feel more present, more alive, more connected to your own life instead of just going through the motions. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and I truly mean this, is the ability to focus fully on what matters most. In a world overflowing with distractions, genuine focus has become a rare and incredibly valuable advantage. It allows ordinary effort to produce extraordinary results. It allows simple habits to create life-changing outcomes. It allows goals that once seemed impossible to become real. So, here is what I want you to do. Take a close, honest look at your life this week. Identify what keeps draining your attention day after day. Do not judge yourself for what you find. That is not the point. Simply observe with curiosity and honesty. Find the habits, activities, thought patterns, and commitments that repeatedly pull you away from your priorities. Then begin clearing them out, one by one, Not all at once, not through some dramatic life overhaul that burns you out in 3 days. Through consistent small decisions, through quiet improvements, through greater awareness of where your attention is going and whether it is going where you actually want it to go. The more attention you recover, the more power you gain over your own life. The more focus you protect, the easier it becomes to stay organized. The more intentional you become about where your mind goes, the less control distractions have over you. Your future depends on where your attention goes today. Every goal you want to achieve requires focus to reach it. Every improvement you want to make requires concentration to sustain it. Every meaningful accomplishment requires a kind of sustained, protected effort that only comes when you stop letting your attention leak out in every direction. Stop allowing unnecessary distractions to consume your best mental energy. Stop giving your focus away to things that add absolutely no value to your life. Stop treating attention as something that will just appear on its own when you need it. It will not. You have to guard it carefully, direct it intentionally, use it wisely, because when you finally clear away the things that have been quietly draining your attention for months and years, something beautiful happens. You create space, space for growth, space for progress, space for clarity, space for a life that feels genuinely organized, genuinely purposeful, and genuinely under your control. And that space? That is where the best version of your life is waiting for you. Chapter 6. Put your priorities back in order. One of the biggest reasons people feel lost, overwhelmed, and completely disorganized is not because they have too many responsibilities. That is what most people assume. But it is not the real issue. The real problem, the one hiding underneath all that stress and confusion, is that they have lost sight of what actually matters most. Have you ever felt that? That strange, unsettling feeling of being incredibly busy every single day, but somehow feeling like you're not actually going anywhere? Like you're running on a treadmill at full speed, sweating, exhausted, giving everything you have. But when you look up, the scenery has not changed at all. That feeling is not caused by having too much to do. It is caused by doing the wrong things. When priorities become unclear, life becomes confusing in a way that is hard to describe. Everything starts competing for your attention at the same level. Small, meaningless things begin receiving the same importance as things that could genuinely change your future. Urgent tasks, the ones screaming the loudest, push aside the quiet but deeply meaningful goals that actually deserve your energy. Before long, you find yourself working harder than ever, but moving very little in the direction you truly want to go. And the worst part? Most people do not even realize this is happening. They think the problem is that they are not working hard enough. They think they need more discipline, more hours, more hustle. But the truth is far simpler and far more painful. Their effort is real. Their exhaustion is real. But their priorities are completely out of order. Take a moment right now and think about how many people spend years, actual years of their lives, focused on things that do not improve their situation even slightly. They invest countless hours in distractions that feel productive but produce nothing meaningful. They worry endlessly about situations that bring absolutely no value to their future. They chase approval and validation from people who are not helping them grow, people who would not even notice if they disappeared tomorrow. Meanwhile, the things that actually matter, their health, their real goals, their finances, their personal growth, their most important relationships, receive whatever scraps of attention and energy are left over at the end of the day. Does that sound like something you have experienced? Giving your best energy to things that do not deserve it, while the things that truly matter get your leftovers? Life becomes incredibly difficult when priorities are out of order. And here is what makes it even more frustrating. Many people say they want success. They talk about it. They dream about it. They post about it. But when you look at what they actually do every day, their actions tell a completely different story. They say they want better health, yet they consistently ignore the habits that would create it. They say they want financial freedom, yet they spend almost no time learning about money, creating a plan, or changing the behaviors that keep them stuck. They say they want peace of mind, yet they continue filling every corner of their life with unnecessary stress, drama, and noise. Have you ever caught yourself doing that? Saying one thing, but doing the exact opposite? It is not hypocrisy. It is a priority problem. And the first step to fixing it is being willing to see it clearly. The truth is beautifully simple, even if it is uncomfortable to hear. What receives your attention grows. What gets neglected weakens. That is not a motivational quote. That is a law of life. It works every single time, without exception. Your life today, exactly as it is right now, is giving you clear clues about where your real priorities have been. Not the priorities you talk about, the ones you actually live by. Look at how you spend your time, not how you wish you spent it, how you actually spend it. Where does your energy go on a typical day? What receives the majority of your focus? Be brutally honest, because those answers reveal what is truly important to you, regardless of what you tell yourself or tell other people. This realization can be deeply uncomfortable. Many people who do this exercise discover an enormous gap between what they claim matters most and what they actually invest their effort in. They say family is everything, but they spend more time on their phone than talking to the people in their own home. They say health is a priority, but they have not exercised in months. They say their dreams matter, but they cannot remember the last time they took a single concrete step toward making one of those dreams real. But here's the thing, that uncomfortable awareness, it is not a reason to feel guilty. It is not a reason to beat yourself up. It is a gift. Because awareness creates the opportunity for change. You cannot fix what you refuse to see. And now you are seeing it. An organized life requires something that most people never think about: alignment. Your actions need to support your goals. Your daily habits need to support the future you say you want. Your decisions, the ones you make every single day, need to reflect the values you claim to hold. When these things start working together, when what you do matches what you say matters, life begins feeling more stable, more coherent, more peaceful. That alignment is the foundation of true organization. Think about how incredibly easy it is to get pulled away from what actually matters. A random notification pops up on your screen, and suddenly 20 minutes are gone. An unexpected request arrives from someone, and their emergency becomes your entire afternoon. Someone else's priorities suddenly become your problem, and you did not even agree to it. The day started with good intentions, a clear sense of what you wanted to accomplish. But hours disappear without any meaningful progress because you spent the whole day reacting instead of directing. This happens to people constantly, and the reason it keeps happening is that most people have never sat down and clearly defined what their priorities actually are. They have a vague sense that certain things matter, but they have never made it concrete. They have never drawn a clear line between what deserves their best attention and what does not. And here is what happens when you skip that step. If everything feels equally important, then nothing receives proper attention. When every task sits at the same level in your mind, every decision becomes exhausting. You waste enormous amounts of energy just trying to figure out what to work on next, because everything seems urgent, everything seems necessary, everything seems like it cannot wait. Organized people understand something that changes everything. Not all tasks carry equal value. Not all opportunities deserve the same amount of energy. Not every activity that fills your day is actually contributing to a better future. Some things feel productive, but are actually just noise. Some things feel urgent, but are actually completely unimportant. Learning to tell the difference is one of the most valuable skills you will ever develop. Imagine a person who spends every single day handling minor issues while their major goals sit untouched. Week after week, they stay busy. Month after month, they remain occupied. They are not being lazy. They are not sitting around doing nothing. They are working hard. But years later, they look around and wonder why their life looks almost exactly the same as it did before. Their effort was genuine, but it was pointed in the wrong direction. Has that ever happened to you? Working incredibly hard but feeling like you have nothing real to show for it? Hard work alone is not enough. I know that is not what most people want to hear, but it is the truth. Direction matters just as much as effort, maybe even more. A person running at full speed in the wrong direction will never reach the destination they desire, no matter how fast they run. Progress requires clarity. It requires knowing with real certainty what deserves your best attention and what does not. This is why you must regularly stop and ask yourself some important questions. Not just once, regularly. What are the most important areas of my life right now, at this stage, in this season? What has been receiving too little attention? What has been neglected while less important things consumed my days? What activities am I spending time on that are not producing any meaningful results? Honest answers to those questions can genuinely change the trajectory of your life. Perhaps your health has been quietly pushed to the side while you focused on things that seemed more urgent but were far less important. Perhaps the people closest to you, your family, your real friends, have been receiving your leftover energy instead of your best. Perhaps your dreams, the ones that used to light you up inside, have been gathering dust while distractions filled your calendar. Perhaps your finances desperately need the kind of focused attention that has been delayed for far too long. Once you identify these areas, you can finally begin making real adjustments, not dramatic, unsustainable overhauls. Real, meaningful adjustments that shift your daily actions back into alignment with what actually matters. Many people assume that organizing your life is primarily about managing tasks, creating to-do lists, checking boxes, moving items from one column to another. But in reality, true organization is about something much deeper. It is about managing priorities. A person with crystal clear priorities can navigate an incredibly busy schedule more effectively than someone with unlimited free time but no sense of direction. Priorities act as a filter for your entire life. They help you decide what deserves an enthusiastic yes and what deserves a firm, guilt-free no. They help you determine where to invest your limited effort and energy. They protect you from wasting precious resources on things that contribute nothing to your growth. One of the greatest skills you will ever develop is the ability to say no to what does not matter, so that you can wholeheartedly say yes to what does. And I know that is not always easy. There will be pressure from other people who want your time and attention. There will be tempting distractions that look attractive in the moment. There will be opportunities that seem exciting on the surface, but do not actually align with where you are trying to go. Have you ever said yes to something you knew you should have said no to, and then spent the next week regretting it because it took time and energy away from something that actually mattered? Most people have. And most people keep repeating that pattern because saying no feels uncomfortable. Learning to stay focused on your real priorities requires discipline, not a harsh, punishing kind of discipline that makes life feel like a prison. The quiet, steady kind that simply means making choices that align with your values over and over again, even when easier options are available. Every successful person eventually reaches a critical realization. Attention is limited. Time is limited. Energy is limited. These resources are not infinite, no matter how much we wish they were. Because they are limited, they must be used wisely. You cannot give your absolute best effort to everything. It is physically and mentally impossible. You must choose. And the quality of those choices, the things you say yes to and the things you say no to, shapes the quality of your entire future. Think about the people in this world who achieve remarkable, almost unbelievable results. They are not necessarily more talented than everyone else. They are not superhuman. They are not working with some secret advantage that you do not have access to. Often, they are simply more focused. They know exactly what matters to them. They know precisely where they are going. They consistently, relentlessly direct their effort toward meaningful objectives, while everyone else scatters their energy across 100 different things. This kind of focus creates momentum. Momentum creates visible progress. Progress creates genuine confidence. And that confidence feeds back into more focus. It becomes a beautiful, self-reinforcing cycle. When your priorities are truly clear, decision-making becomes dramatically easier. You waste less time debating with yourself about what to do next. You experience far less confusion about where your energy should go. You become more intentional, more decisive, more directed in everything you do. Life actually starts feeling lighter because you are no longer trying to carry everything at once. Many people create enormous amounts of self-inflicted pressure because they treat every single issue as equally important. They rush from one concern to the next in a constant state of low-grade panic. They always feel behind. Their minds are perpetually crowded with competing demands that all seem to scream at the same volume. A far better approach is to step back, take a breath, and calmly identify what truly deserves your attention right now. Not next month, not next year. Right now, at this exact moment in your life. What matters most? The answer might be improving your health before everything else falls apart. It might be getting your finances under control so that money stress stops poisoning every other area of your life. It might be developing a specific skill that could open new doors. It might be investing real time and energy into relationships that have been neglected. It might be creating a more secure and stable future for the people who depend on you. Whatever the answer is, give it the attention it genuinely deserves. Stop allowing minor concerns to dominate your schedule. Stop pouring your best energy into activities that produce little meaningful value. Stop treating every distraction as if it were a genuine priority worthy of your time. A meaningful life is built through intentional choices, not accidental ones. A productive life is built through focused effort, not scattered busyness. An organized life is built by putting the right things in the right order and then fiercely protecting that order when the world tries to rearrange it. Every single day presents opportunities to move closer to what matters most. Every day offers decisions that either support your future or quietly pull you further away from it. Choose carefully. Be intentional. Your priorities are shaping your future right now, whether you realize it or not. The only question that matters is whether those priorities are actually helping you create the life you want. If they are not, now is the time to put them back where they belong. Give your best attention to what truly matters. Protect your focus from everything that does not. Direct your energy with wisdom instead of scattering it with carelessness. Because when your priorities are clear, your actions become clearer. When your actions become clearer, your results improve. And when your results improve consistently, day after day, week after week, your entire life begins moving in a direction that finally feels right. Chapter 7. Finish the tasks. You keep postponing. One of the fastest ways to create complete disorder in your life is to develop a habit of postponing important tasks. And I want to be honest with you right now. This might be the chapter that hits closest to home, because almost everyone, no matter how disciplined they think they are, has something sitting on their list that has been there far too long. Something they keep moving to tomorrow. Something they keep promising themselves they will get to. Something that quietly follows them from one week to the next, growing heavier with every day that passes. Let me ask you something. Is there a task right now, at this very moment, that you know you should have handled a long time ago? Something that pops into your mind at the worst possible times, when you are trying to fall asleep, when you are trying to enjoy a quiet moment, when you are sitting with people you care about, but your mind drifts to that one thing that is still not done. If you felt something in your chest just now, a little tightness, a little guilt, then you already know exactly what I am talking about. Every unfinished responsibility occupies space in your mind. Not just a little space, real, valuable mental space that could be used for creativity, for problem solving, for actually enjoying your life. Every delayed action creates additional pressure that you carry around like an invisible backpack filled with rocks. Every commitment that remains incomplete follows you from one day to the next, whispering in the background, never quite letting you fully relax. Over time, these unfinished tasks begin stacking up. What once felt perfectly manageable slowly starts feeling overwhelming. What could have been solved in 30 minutes 3 weeks ago has now become a source of stress that has lasted for months. A quick phone call you kept avoiding has turned into an awkward situation. A simple decision you kept delaying has turned into a complicated problem. A small responsibility you kept pushing to next week has grown into something that now feels almost impossible to face. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever watched a small, simple task transform into something enormous simply because you waited too long? Many people do not realize how much mental energy they lose every single day because of things they keep postponing. They tell themselves a comforting story. I will handle it tomorrow. Tomorrow arrives and the story repeats. Maybe next week. Next week comes and goes. Definitely next month. Before they know it, a task that would have taken an hour has become a permanent resident inside their head. It has moved in, unpacked its bags, and made itself completely at home in their thoughts. It appears during quiet moments when you finally have a chance to breathe. It shows up uninvited when you are trying to relax and enjoy something. It returns like clockwork whenever you think about your goals or your future. It is always there, always waiting, always reminding you that something remains unfinished. And here is what most people do not understand. The problem is not always the size of the task. Sometimes the task itself is incredibly small. It might take 15 minutes to complete. It might require a single phone call, a single email, a single conversation. The real problem is not the task. The real problem is the constant mental reminder that something remains undone. That reminder, that low-level hum of incompletion, slowly chips away at your confidence. It creates a quiet frustration that builds over time because deep down, you know exactly what needs to be done, and yet there it sits, completely untouched. Think about how many times in your life you have finally completed something you delayed for weeks or months. Really think about those moments. Once it was finished, what happened? You probably sat there wondering why on earth you waited so long. The task was rarely as difficult as your mind convinced you it would be. The stress you carried for all those weeks did not come from the action itself. It came from the postponement, the avoiding, the mental gymnastics of constantly pushing it to the future. Have you noticed that pattern in your own life? That the dread of doing something is almost always worse than actually doing it? Human beings have a remarkable talent for imagining the worst before they begin. We overestimate how difficult things will be. We exaggerate the discomfort we will feel. We convince ourselves we need more time, more preparation, more motivation, better circumstances, a clearer mind, a less busy week. Meanwhile, absolutely nothing moves forward. Progress stays frozen in place while we perfect the art of waiting. An organized life requires a fundamentally different mindset. It requires becoming a person who finishes things, not because every task is exciting, not because every responsibility brings joy, not because you always feel like doing what needs to be done, simply because unfinished work has consequences. Real consequences that affect your confidence, your stress levels, your relationships, and your ability to move forward. When you consistently postpone important actions, you are training yourself to do something very dangerous. You are training yourself to break promises to yourself. And this is far more serious than most people realize. because self-trust is built entirely through follow-through. Every single time you decide to do something and then avoid it, you weaken your confidence in your own ability to act. You teach yourself, through repetition, that your decisions do not really mean anything, that your commitments to yourself are negotiable, that your word to yourself is not worth keeping. Over time, this creates a deep, quiet doubt that affects everything. You start questioning whether you will actually complete the things you plan. You start doubting your own reliability. You stop believing in your own intentions because your track record tells a different story. You say you will do things, but history shows that you usually do not. And that gap between intention and action slowly erodes something precious, your belief in yourself. Does that resonate with you? Have you ever felt that creeping doubt? That sense of not being able to trust your own plans because you have broken too many promises to yourself? But here is the other side of that coin, and this is where it gets exciting. Every finished task strengthens self-respect. Every completed responsibility sends a powerful message to your mind. You are dependable. You said you would do it, and you did it. Every action you follow through on reinforces the belief that you can trust yourself. And that belief, once it starts growing, changes absolutely everything about how you move through life. Many people spend their days searching for motivation. They read books about it. They watch videos about it. They wait for that magical feeling to appear so they can finally take action. But what they really need is not motivation. What they need is completion. There is something deeply, almost physically satisfying about closing open loops in your life. Finishing a project that has been hanging over you, making a decision you have been avoiding for weeks, responding to something that has been sitting in your inbox, making you anxious every time you see it, taking care of a responsibility that has been lingering in the background for far too long. Completion creates relief like nothing else can. Completion creates mental clarity because the noise in your head gets a little quieter with every task you finish. Completion creates momentum because finishing one thing often gives you the energy and confidence to tackle the next thing on the list. Have you ever experienced that feeling? Finishing one task and suddenly feeling a surge of energy to keep going? That is not random. That is the power of completion working in your favor. Now, I want you to look closely at the areas of your life that feel most chaotic right now. Look underneath the surface. What do you see? In most cases, you will discover a collection of unfinished tasks hiding there, quietly creating disorder. Calls that were never made, plans that were carefully created but never executed, responsibilities that have been sitting incomplete for months, goals that were started with enthusiasm but abandoned when the excitement faded. Every single one of those unfinished items is demanding a piece of your attention right now. They are competing for space in your mind. They are making it harder to focus on what truly matters because part of your mental energy remains permanently attached to things from the past that were never resolved. People who consistently achieve meaningful results understand something crucial about the difference between starting and finishing. Starting creates possibility. That is true. Beginning something new opens a door. But finishing creates results. Finishing is where the real value lives. And there is a massive difference between someone who constantly starts new things and someone who consistently finishes what they begin. Many people fall in love with the excitement of starting. A new goal feels thrilling. A new project feels inspiring. A new plan fills them with hope and optimism. Everything feels possible in the beginning. But then something predictable happens. Difficulty appears. The novelty wears off. The initial excitement fades. The task becomes less glamorous and more like actual work. Suddenly, it is not fun anymore. And that is exactly the moment when attention shifts to something newer and more exciting, leaving yet another unfinished project in the growing pile. Does this pattern sound familiar? Starting strong and then fading when things get hard? This cycle keeps people permanently trapped. They become experts at beginning and complete amateurs at finishing. Their lives are filled with half-completed projects, abandoned goals, and good intentions that never turned into real results. Not because they lacked ability, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they never developed the discipline to push through the uncomfortable middle and reach the finish line. An organized life demands a higher standard from you. It requires staying committed to things long after the initial excitement disappears. It requires continuing when the work feels boring, repetitive, and ordinary. It requires showing up and doing what needs to be done even on the days when motivation has completely vanished. The truth that most people do not want to hear is this: many of life's greatest rewards are hidden behind consistency. They do not belong to the most talented people. They do not belong to the luckiest people. They belong to the people who continue long after everyone else has quit. They belong to the people who finish what they begin, even when finishing is the hardest part. Think about how much lighter your life would feel right now if every lingering responsibility was handled. If every decision that has been waiting was finally made. If every commitment you've been carrying was actually completed. Imagine that feeling. Decisions made, tasks done, commitments honored, nothing hanging over your head, nothing whispering in the background. Just a clear mind and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you are fully caught up with your own life. There is a profound sense of freedom that comes from knowing you are dealing with life instead of hiding from it. That freedom is not reserved for special people. It is available to anyone willing to change their relationship with finishing. Let me ask you a simple but powerful question. What task have you been carrying longer than necessary? The answer probably came to your mind immediately. You did not even have to think about it. Perhaps it is something related to your career. Perhaps it involves your finances. Perhaps it is a conversation you know you need to have, but keep finding reasons to delay. Perhaps it is a goal that has been sitting completely untouched for months, while you told yourself you were waiting for the right time. Whatever it is, I want you to hear this. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Please, perfection is almost always the mask that postponement wears. People tell themselves they need the perfect plan before they can start. They need the perfect amount of free time. They need the perfect level of energy. They need the perfect circumstances. Meanwhile, while they wait for all that perfection to arrive, valuable weeks and months continue slipping away. Life does not wait for perfect conditions, and neither should you. Action creates progress. Progress creates improvement. Improvement creates confidence. And the first step toward all of that is usually much, much smaller than people imagine. You do not need to complete everything today. You do not need to fix your entire life in one heroic session. You simply need to begin moving. One action, one decision, one completed step. That is enough to break the spell of postponement. Momentum is a remarkable force, and it starts working in your favor the moment you take that first step. Finishing one task often creates enough energy to finish the next one. Accomplishment builds motivation far more effectively than sitting around thinking about what you should be doing. Many people spend more time thinking about their work than actually doing it. They analyze endlessly. They worry about every possible outcome. They delay and deliberate and second guess. Yet the moment they finally take action, they discover something that changes everything. Progress feels infinitely better than procrastination ever did. Life becomes dramatically easier to organize when unfinished tasks stop accumulating. Your mind becomes clearer because there are fewer things competing for your attention. Your focus becomes sharper because your energy is no longer being drained by the ghosts of things you never completed. Your confidence grows steadily because you are consistently proving to yourself that you can handle what life puts in front of you. Remember that every postponed task carries a hidden cost that goes far beyond the task itself. It consumes precious attention. It creates unnecessary pressure. It occupies mental space that could be used for growth, creativity, new ideas, and genuine enjoyment of your life. You deserve better than spending your days weighed down by unfinished business. You deserve the deep satisfaction that comes from completion. You deserve the confidence that comes from keeping your commitments to yourself. So stop carrying tasks longer than you need to. Stop making tomorrow responsible for what could be handled right now, today, in this moment. Stop allowing delay to harden into a permanent habit that controls your life. Choose action. Choose follow-through. Choose completion. Because every single time you finish something important, you bring more order into your life. Every responsibility you handle with courage strengthens your character. Every commitment you honor, especially the ones you make to yourself, increases your confidence in ways that nothing else can. And when finishing becomes your habit instead of your struggle, something beautiful happens. Organization stops feeling like a battle you are constantly losing. It becomes part of who you are. You become someone who takes action when action is needed. Someone who follows through when follow-through matters. Someone who creates real, tangible results instead of just talking about what they plan to do someday. That kind of person is always moving forward, always growing, always building a life that feels more organized, more intentional, and more fully under their own control. And that person is already inside you. They are just waiting for you to start finishing what you have been putting off. Chapter 8. Create a life that feels manageable. Many people are not struggling because life is impossible. I need you to hear that clearly because it changes everything about how you approach your situation. Life is not impossible. It is not designed to defeat you. It is not working against you on purpose. The reason so many people feel crushed by their daily existence is not because their circumstances are uniquely terrible. It is because life feels heavier than it needs to be. And there is a massive difference between those two things. Have you ever woken up in the morning and before you even opened your eyes, before your feet touched the floor, you already felt exhausted? Not physically exhausted from lack of sleep, but mentally exhausted from the sheer weight of everything sitting on your shoulders. The responsibilities waiting for you, the decisions that need to be made, the problems that have not been solved, the commitments you are not sure you can keep, the feeling that no matter how much you do today, it will never be enough. If you have felt that, you are not weak. You are not failing. You are simply carrying more than any human being was designed to carry all at once. And the solution is not to somehow become stronger so you can keep carrying all of it. The solution is to finally put some of it down. Every day feels like a race for too many people. Every responsibility feels urgent. Every problem seems bigger and more threatening than it actually is. They wake up already feeling behind schedule before the day has even started. They move through their hours carrying invisible pressure that colors everything they do, every conversation they have, every decision they make. They go to bed at night thinking about everything that still needs to be done, and the list somehow feels longer than it did that morning. After weeks, months, and years of living this way, it becomes genuinely exhausting. Not the kind of exhaustion that a good night of sleep can fix. The kind that settles deep into your bones and makes you wonder if this is just how life is supposed to feel from now on. Has that thought ever crossed your mind? The thought that maybe feeling overwhelmed is just the price you pay for being an adult? That maybe everyone feels this way, and the people who seem calm and in control are just better at hiding it? I want to challenge that belief right now because it is not true. It feels true. It sounds reasonable. But it is a lie that keeps millions of people trapped in a cycle of stress they never escape from. One of the most important goals of organizing your life is not what most people think it is. It is not about becoming busier. It is not about filling every single hour with productive activity. It is not about creating a schedule so perfectly optimized that there is no room left to breathe, to rest, to simply exist without a task in your hands. The real goal, the one that actually changes how life feels, is to create a life that feels manageable, a life where responsibilities have a place instead of floating around your mind in constant chaos, a life where your brain is not permanently overloaded with competing demands, a life where you can move forward with purpose without feeling like the weight of the entire world is pressing down on your chest. Does that sound like something you want? Not a perfect life. Not a life without challenges. Just a life that feels like something you can actually handle. A life that does not crush you before noon every single day. Many people have unknowingly built lives that are far more complicated than they need to be. They did not do it on purpose. Nobody sits down and says, "I think I will make my life impossibly stressful today." It happens gradually, one commitment at a time, one unfinished plan at a time, one unnecessary worry at a time, one demand after another, until suddenly the pile is so high you cannot see over it anymore. Too many commitments pulling you in different directions. Too many unfinished plans creating guilt every time you think about them. Too many unnecessary worries occupying space in your mind that could be used for something far better. Too many demands from other people that you said yes to when every part of you wanted to say no. Over time, all of these things combine to create a constant, humming feeling of pressure that never fully goes away, even on your days off, even on vacation, even in the moments that are supposed to be peaceful. And here is what makes it even worse. That pressure becomes familiar. People live with it for so long that they stop recognizing it as a problem. They assume this is simply what being a responsible adult feels like. They assume everyone walks around with this same knot in their stomach. They assume exhaustion is unavoidable and stress is just the cost of having responsibilities. But there is a crucial difference that most people miss. There is a difference between having responsibilities and carrying unnecessary burdens. A person can have a full, active, ambitious life and still feel calm at the end of the day. Another person can have far fewer responsibilities and still feel completely overwhelmed every waking moment. The difference is not in how much they have on their plate. The difference is in how their life is structured. Have you ever met someone who seems to handle an enormous amount with remarkable calm? They have a demanding career. They have family obligations. They have goals they are actively working toward, yet somehow they do not seem crushed by any of it. They are not superhuman. They are not pretending. They have simply built their life in a way that makes it manageable. They have systems. They have boundaries. They have clarity about what deserves their energy and what does not. Think about what happens when everything in your life feels equally urgent. Your mind starts jumping from one concern to the next like a pinball machine. You struggle to focus on anything because everything is screaming for attention at the same volume. Decisions that should be simple become agonizing because your mental energy is already stretched so thin. Small setbacks that would normally roll off your shoulders feel like devastating blows because you have no reserves left. Simple tasks that should take minutes start feeling impossibly difficult because your brain is running on empty. This is exactly why creating a manageable life is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is what allows you to use your energy effectively instead of wasting it on constant internal firefighting. It gives you room to think clearly instead of living in a permanent fog of stress. It allows you to focus on what truly matters without that agonizing feeling of being pulled apart in every direction simultaneously. Here is an important lesson that took me a long time to understand, and I wish someone had told me earlier. Not everything deserves your attention at the same time. Many people make the mistake of trying to solve every problem in their life simultaneously. They want to improve their health, fix their finances, advance their career, repair their relationships, develop new skills, and transform their mindset all at the same time, starting Monday. When progress does not happen fast enough across all those fronts, frustration and discouragement appear immediately. Has that ever happened to you? Getting fired up, trying to change everything at once, and then crashing hard when the reality of doing all of that hits you? Life becomes significantly easier when you give yourself permission to stop trying to carry everything at once. You do not have to solve every issue plaguing your life today. You do not have to complete every goal you have ever set this week. You do not have to fix every challenge, address every problem, and transform every weakness immediately. That is not how real lasting change works. Progress happens step by step, one area at a time, one improvement at a time, one day at a time. A manageable life is built through realistic expectations, not low expectations, realistic ones. It is built through patience with yourself, through understanding that meaningful growth is not an overnight event, but a gradual process that unfolds over weeks and months and years. Many people create enormous unnecessary stress by expecting far too much from themselves in far too little time. They create impossible schedules that no human being could actually maintain. They overload their days until there is literally no space left for rest, for reflection, for simply being alive without producing something. Eventually, they burn out, they crash, they become deeply discouraged because they set a pace they could never maintain and then blame themselves for failing. But the failure was not in their effort. The failure was in their planning. The pace was never sustainable to begin with. Here is a truth that might surprise you. Sustainable progress always beats temporary intensity every single time. The person who consistently makes small improvements day after day, week after week, almost always achieves more in the long run than the person who repeatedly pushes themselves to extreme limits and then collapses from exhaustion. The tortoise really does beat the hare, not because the tortoise is more talented, but because the tortoise is still moving when the hare is lying on the side of the road wondering what went wrong. There is profound wisdom in creating systems that support your life instead of constantly fighting against it. A simple morning routine can reduce the confusion that ruins your first hours. A clear schedule that includes breathing room can dramatically reduce daily stress. A clean, organized environment can improve your focus more than any productivity app ever could. Small habits, practiced consistently, can eliminate countless daily frustrations that you have been accepting as normal. These things might seem ordinary. They might not sound exciting or revolutionary, but their impact on how your life actually feels is enormous. Think about how much energy gets wasted every single day when life feels disorganized, searching for things that should be easy to find but are buried under piles of clutter, forgetting important responsibilities because nothing is written down and your mind is too crowded to remember everything, constantly rushing from one thing to the next because nothing was planned and everything becomes an emergency, making the same avoidable mistakes over and over because there is no system in place to prevent them. When life becomes more organized, those problems start disappearing one by one. You spend less time reacting to chaos and more time acting with clear purpose. You make better decisions because your mind finally has the space it needs to think properly. Things that used to take an hour now take 20 minutes because you are not fighting through mental fog to get them done. Another incredibly important part of creating a manageable life is something most people resist: learning your limits. And I do not mean that in a negative, defeatist way. I mean it in the most empowering way possible. Many people struggle not because they are not capable, but because they refuse to acknowledge that they are human beings with finite time, finite energy, and finite attention. They say yes to everything because saying no feels uncomfortable. They accept responsibilities they genuinely do not have the capacity to handle well. They take on new commitments without releasing old ones, and then wonder why they feel like they are drowning. Does that sound like you? Always saying yes, always taking on more, always stretching yourself thinner and thinner until there is almost nothing left? A strong, sustainable, organized life requires boundaries. Real boundaries that you actually enforce, not just nice ideas that you ignore whenever someone asks you for something. You must protect your time because no one else is going to protect it for you. You must protect your energy because it is not unlimited, no matter how much you wish it were. You must understand that every single commitment comes with a cost, and saying yes to one thing always means saying no to something else. The people who appear most organized, the ones who seem to glide through life with a sense of calm that makes you wonder what their secret is, are not necessarily doing more than everyone else. In many cases, they are actually doing less. They are simply far more selective about what they choose to invest their time and energy in. They choose carefully. They focus deeply on a few things that matter. They avoid unnecessary complications that most people invite into their lives without thinking. And this selectivity creates something precious: space. Space to think. Space to grow. Space to rest. Space to actually enjoy the life they're building instead of just surviving it. Too many people spend years, sometimes decades, chasing success while completely neglecting their own peace of mind. They become incredibly productive but utterly exhausted, constantly busy but deeply unhappy, always active, always achieving, always pushing forward, but completely disconnected from the simple joys that make life actually worth living. A manageable life creates balance, real balance, not the Instagram version that looks perfect from the outside. It allows ambition and well-being to exist together in the same life. It allows you to pursue your goals with passion without destroying yourself in the process. It allows progress without the constant crushing pressure that makes you dread waking up in the morning. There is also something important to understand about mental clutter, because it might be the heaviest thing you're carrying. Just because a thought is occupying your mind does not mean it deserves to be there. Many people spend staggering amounts of mental energy worrying about things they literally cannot control. They replay old mistakes that cannot be undone. They imagine future problems that may never actually happen. They carry fears that exist only in their imagination but feel absolutely real. Have you ever caught yourself lying awake at 3 in the morning, worrying about something that you cannot do anything about right now? Something that may not even happen? Your body is in bed, but your mind is running a marathon through worst-case scenarios that exist nowhere but inside your own head. A more organized, more manageable life requires mental discipline. You must learn to focus your precious mental energy on things that can actually be influenced by your actions. You must stop giving your attention to concerns that produce no solutions, no progress, no improvement, just anxiety. You must stop feeding problems that exist only in your imagination while real opportunities sit right in front of you, unnoticed. The more mental space you create by releasing what does not deserve to stay, the easier everything becomes. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning knowing exactly what needs your attention and feeling confident that you can handle it. Imagine going through your day with a schedule that supports you instead of suffocating you. Imagine having systems in place that quietly take care of the small things so your mind can focus on the big things. Imagine ending the day feeling genuinely satisfied because meaningful progress was made without the usual exhaustion and regret. That life is not a fantasy. It is not reserved for people who are luckier, smarter, or more naturally organized than you. It can be created through deliberate, consistent choices. Better planning that accounts for the reality of your life, not some idealized version. Better boundaries that protect your time and energy from everyone who wants a piece of it. Better habits that reduce daily friction instead of creating more of it. Better focus that directs your attention where it actually belongs. You do not need a perfect life. You do not need perfect circumstances. You do not need every single question answered and every problem solved before you can feel at peace. You simply need a life that works, a life where responsibilities are manageable instead of crushing, a life where priorities are clear instead of competing for attention in a constant screaming match, a life where stress informs your decisions instead of controlling them, a life where you can focus on genuine growth without feeling like you are drowning. That kind of life is absolutely possible for you. It begins when you stop adding unnecessary complexity to a life that already has plenty of real challenges. It begins when you stop carrying emotional and mental burdens that do not actually belong to you. It begins when you start building simple, sustainable systems that make your daily existence easier instead of harder. Because when life finally feels manageable, when you can breathe without that constant tightness in your chest, when you can think without fighting through mental fog, when you can plan without feeling overwhelmed before you even start, you gain something incredibly valuable. You gain the space and energy to focus on actually becoming the person you are capable of becoming. Not just surviving, not just getting through the day, actually growing, evolving, building something meaningful with the time you have been given. And that is where real life begins. Not in the chaos, not in the overwhelm, not in the constant pressure, in the space you create when you finally decide that your life deserves to feel manageable, because it does, and so do you. Chapter 9. Stay organized, even on difficult days. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they start getting their life together is believing that organization only matters when things are going well. And I understand why. When life is smooth, when you feel motivated, when energy is high and everything seems to be clicking into place, staying organized feels almost effortless. You follow your routines. You stick to your plans. You check things off your list with a sense of pride. You feel like you have finally figured it out. Like this time, it is going to stick. Like you have become a new person. But then a difficult day arrives, and everything you built starts to wobble. Have you ever experienced that? You spend weeks building momentum, creating good habits, feeling proud of your progress. Then life throws something unexpected at you. A stressful situation at work, a problem in a relationship, a health issue you did not see coming, a financial setback that knocks the wind out of you. Suddenly, all those beautiful routines you created feel completely irrelevant. The plans you made seem pointless. The discipline you were so proud of vanishes like it was never there in the first place. If that has happened to you, I need you to know something important. That does not mean you failed. That does not mean you're not cut out for an organized life. That does not mean all your progress was fake. It simply means you have not yet learned the most critical skill of all: how to stay organized when life gets hard. Because here is the truth that separates people who achieve lasting change from people who keep starting over. Anyone can stay organized when they feel motivated, energetic, and focused. Anyone can follow a plan when everything is running smoothly and life feels cooperative. Anyone can maintain discipline when there are no major problems demanding attention and no storms on the horizon. That is the easy part. That is organization on training wheels. The real test comes when life becomes difficult. The real test comes when stress appears uninvited and refuses to leave. The real test comes when your carefully constructed plans get shattered by something you never expected. That is when you find out what you are really made of. That is when you discover whether your organization was built on a solid foundation or on the shifting sand of temporary motivation. Every single person on this planet experiences difficult days. There is no exception to this rule. There will be days when you wake up feeling completely drained before the day has even begun. There will be days when unexpected problems crash into your schedule like uninvited guests who refuse to leave. There will be days when your emotions feel so heavy that even simple tasks seem like climbing a mountain. There will be days when everything on your list feels larger and more impossible than usual. There will be days, and this is the one nobody talks about, when you simply do not feel like doing what needs to be done. Not because it is too hard, not because you cannot handle it, you just do not want to. The desire is completely gone. Those days? Those are the days that reveal the difference between temporary organization and lasting organization. Those are the days that separate the people who transform their lives from the people who keep returning to square one every few months. Has that cycle ever trapped you? Getting organized, feeling great about it, hitting a rough patch, watching everything fall apart, and then having to start all over again from scratch? If it has, you are not alone. This is one of the most common patterns in personal development, and it happens for one specific reason. Many people build their entire system of organization around motivation, and motivation, as wonderful as it feels, is one of the most unreliable forces in human psychology. Some mornings, you will wake up feeling like you can conquer the world. Other mornings, you will wake up wishing you could stay under the covers forever. Some days, energy flows through you effortlessly. Other days, you feel completely drained before breakfast. If your ability to stay organized depends entirely on how you feel in any given moment, your results will always be wildly inconsistent. You will have great weeks followed by terrible weeks, productive months followed by months of complete chaos. And you will never understand why you cannot seem to maintain the progress you make. The answer is that you have been building on the wrong foundation. An organized life cannot be built on motivation alone. It requires something much stronger, much more reliable. It requires the ability to stay steady even when your circumstances are anything but steady. It requires the kind of quiet, stubborn commitment that does not care whether you feel like it today or not. Think about how easy it is to abandon good habits the moment life gets uncomfortable. A stressful situation appears at work or at home. Suddenly, your morning routine seems like a waste of time. Planning your day feels pointless when everything is falling apart anyway. Small daily tasks that you were handling perfectly start getting ignored. One missed day becomes two. Two becomes a week. A week becomes a month. And before you realize what happened, every bit of order you worked so hard to create has dissolved back into the same chaos you started in. Does that pattern feel painfully familiar? The problem is never the difficult day itself. Difficult days are unavoidable. They are part of being human. The real problem is allowing one difficult day to become a difficult week, a difficult month, or a difficult year. It is the collapse that follows the crisis, not the crisis itself, that does the most damage to your life. Life will never provide perfect conditions for staying organized. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but I would be lying. There will always be unexpected situations that blindside you. There will always be moments that test your patience far beyond what feels fair. There will always be circumstances completely outside your control that throw your plans into disarray. If you are waiting for life to become calm and easy before you commit to staying organized, you will be waiting forever. That calm, easy season is not coming. Not because life is cruel, but because life is life. Challenges are woven into its fabric. Strong people, the ones you look at and wonder how they keep it all together, have learned something that most people never figure out. They have learned how to maintain structure during difficult seasons. Not perfect structure, not flawless execution, just enough structure to keep moving forward instead of sliding backward. They understand something that changes everything. Challenging times are exactly when organization becomes most important. Not least important, most important. Think about it this way. Imagine facing a deeply stressful week with absolutely no plan, no routine, and no systems in place. Everything you encounter feels heavier because you have no structure to lean on. Every decision becomes harder because your mind has no framework to work within. Every problem seems larger and more threatening because there is nothing stable to anchor you. Now imagine facing that exact same stressful week with clear priorities already established, organized systems already running, and healthy habits already built into your daily life. The challenges are identical. The problems are the same size, but your ability to handle them improves dramatically because you have something to stand on. Organization creates stability when everything else feels unstable. When your emotions are swinging wildly, structure provides a steady hand to guide you. When life feels uncertain and scary, routines provide the consistency your mind desperately needs. When pressure increases and threatens to overwhelm you, the preparation you have already done reduces confusion and helps you see clearly. Have you ever noticed that during your most chaotic, stressful periods, the simple act of doing something normal, making your bed, following a small part of your routine, keeping your space tidy, made you feel just a tiny bit better, a tiny bit more in control? That is not a coincidence. That is organization doing exactly what it is designed to do. Many people seriously underestimate how much psychological strength comes from maintaining simple habits during difficult periods. Making your bed when everything else feels like it is falling apart. Following your morning routine even when you would rather hide from the world. Keeping your environment organized when your emotions are in chaos. Completing one important responsibility even when you feel like you cannot handle anything. These actions seem laughably small in the face of serious problems. What difference does making a bed make when your entire life feels like it is crumbling? But that is the wrong way to think about it. These small actions send a critically important message to your subconscious mind. They tell you that not everything is falling apart. They remind you that you still have control over certain parts of your life, even when other parts feel completely beyond your reach. That feeling, that small spark of, "I can still do this," matters more than most people will ever realize. During difficult times, most people make a dangerous mistake. They focus entirely and exclusively on what is going wrong. Their attention becomes completely consumed by the problem. They begin feeling powerless because they are pouring all their mental energy into things they cannot change. Every thought is about the crisis. Every conversation revolves around a problem. Every waking moment is spent dwelling on what went wrong or what might go wrong next. A much better approach, one that actually helps you survive difficult periods and come out stronger on the other side, is to identify what remains within your control. You may not be able to control the crisis itself. You may not be able to undo what happened. You may not be able to change other people's behavior or decisions, but you can still control your actions. You can still control your attitude. You can still control how you choose to respond to what life has thrown at you. That mindset is not just positive thinking, it is resilience. And resilience is not about pretending everything is fine when it clearly is not. Nobody is asking you to smile through genuine pain. Resilience is about continuing to move forward, even slowly, even imperfectly, even when things are decidedly not fine. It is about maintaining your standards and protecting your progress during the exact moments when giving up seems like the easiest and most tempting option. Many people believe that successful individuals never struggle, that they float through life on some golden cloud, untouched by the storms that batter everyone else. That is one of the most harmful myths in our culture. The truth is that successful people experience setbacks, disappointments, and painful failures just like everyone else. Their relationships face challenges. Their finances take hits. Their health creates worry. Their plans fall apart. The difference, the only meaningful difference, is what they do next. They do not allow a single setback to completely demolish everything they have built. They adjust their approach without abandoning their standards. They adapt their plans without abandoning their goals. They keep moving even if the pace has slowed to a crawl, even if every step feels heavy. They understand something that quitters never learn. Momentum that slows down is infinitely better than momentum that stops completely. An organized life does not require perfection. I have said this before, but I want to say it again here because this is the chapter where it matters most. There will be days when you accomplish far less than you planned. There will be days when your carefully made plans need to be completely rewritten. There will be days when life demands a level of flexibility that feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar. The goal during those days is not flawless execution. The goal is simply staying connected to your habits and priorities, even loosely, even imperfectly, even in a reduced form. Think about how much long-term progress can be protected simply through consistency. A person who keeps showing up, even at 50% capacity during a difficult season, often achieves far more over the course of a year than someone who performs brilliantly for a few weeks, then crashes and disappears for months, then starts over, performs brilliantly again, crashes again, and repeats that exhausting cycle indefinitely. Consistency, even imperfect consistency, creates sustainable momentum. Momentum builds genuine, lasting confidence. And that confidence creates the kind of persistence that carries you through anything. One of the greatest dangers during difficult periods is something that sounds dramatic but happens to people every single day. The temptation to abandon everything. A person misses one workout because they are having a terrible week, and instead of getting back to it the next day, they stop exercising entirely. They fall behind on one goal, and instead of adjusting their timeline, they abandon the goal completely. They experience one painful setback, and instead of learning from it, they begin doubting everything they have ever believed about themselves. Has that ever happened to you? Letting one bad moment become the reason you quit something that was genuinely good for your life? This all-or-nothing mindset creates enormous, unnecessary suffering. Life is not about perfection. It was never about perfection. Life is about recovery. It is about falling down and getting back up. It is about having a terrible day and still choosing to show up tomorrow. The important question is never whether difficult days will come. They will. That is guaranteed. The only question that actually matters is how quickly you return to your standards after being knocked off course. Can you get back to your habits within a day instead of a month? Can you resume your routines within a week instead of abandoning them for a season? Can you keep moving forward, even slowly, even messily, even when everything inside you wants to give up? Your answers to those questions will determine your long-term success, far more than any productivity system or organizational tool ever could. There is tremendous power in becoming someone who remains reliable regardless of what life throws at them. Someone who continues taking care of their responsibilities even when those responsibilities feel heavier than usual. Someone who protects their essential habits even when motivation has completely disappeared. Someone who refuses, absolutely refuses, to let temporary challenges create permanent damage to the life they are building. That kind of person develops a strength that cannot be easily shaken by any circumstance. Because every difficult day that you successfully navigate without falling apart becomes proof of your resilience. Every challenge you handle with discipline, even imperfect discipline, strengthens your character in ways that easy days never could. Every obstacle you face with determination instead of surrender adds another layer to your confidence. Over time, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing difficult days, not because you enjoy them. Nobody enjoys them, but because you trust your ability to handle them. You know from experience, from accumulated evidence, that one bad day does not define who you are. You know that one setback does not erase the progress you have fought so hard to create. You know that one storm, no matter how fierce, does not determine your ultimate destination. During difficult times, most people make a dangerous mistake. They focus entirely and exclusively on what is going wrong. Their attention becomes completely consumed by the problem. They begin feeling powerless because they are pouring all their mental energy into things they cannot change. Every thought is about the crisis. Every conversation revolves around a problem. Every waking moment is spent dwelling on what went wrong or what might go wrong next. A much better approach, one that actually helps you survive difficult periods and come out stronger on the other side, is to identify what remains within your control. You may not be able to control the crisis itself. You may not be able to undo what happened. You may not be able to change other people's behavior or decisions, but you can still control your actions. You can still control your attitude. You can still control how you choose to respond to what life has thrown at you. That mindset is not just positive thinking, it is resilience. And resilience is not about pretending everything is fine when it clearly is not. Nobody is asking you to smile through genuine pain. Resilience is about continuing to move forward, even slowly, even imperfectly, even when things are decidedly not fine. It is about maintaining your standards and protecting your progress during the exact moments when giving up seems like the easiest and most tempting option. Many people believe that successful individuals never struggle, that they float through life on some golden cloud, untouched by the storms that batter everyone else. That is one of the most harmful myths in our culture. The truth is that successful people experience setbacks, disappointments, and painful failures just like everyone else. Their relationships face challenges. Their finances take hits. Their health creates worry. Their plans fall apart. The difference, the only meaningful difference, is what they do next. They do not allow a single setback to completely demolish everything they have built. They adjust their approach without abandoning their standards. They adapt their plans without abandoning their goals. They keep moving, even if the pace has slowed to a crawl, even if every step feels heavy. They understand something that quitters never learn. Momentum that slows down is infinitely better than momentum that stops completely. An organized life does not require perfection. I have said this before, but I want to say it again here because this is the chapter where it matters most. There will be days when you accomplish far less than you planned. There will be days when your carefully made plans need to be completely rewritten. There will be days when life demands a level of flexibility that feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar. The goal during those days is not flawless execution. The goal is simply staying connected to your habits and priorities, even loosely, even imperfectly, even in a reduced form. Think about how much long-term progress can be protected simply through consistency. A person who keeps showing up, even at 50% capacity during a difficult season, often achieves far more over the course of a year than someone who performs brilliantly for a few weeks, then crashes and disappears for months, then starts over, performs brilliantly again, crashes again, and repeats that exhausting cycle indefinitely. Consistency, even imperfect consistency, creates sustainable momentum. Momentum builds genuine, lasting confidence. And that confidence creates the kind of persistence that carries you through anything. Chapter 10. Become the person who has control. As you reach this final chapter, I want you to understand something that many people never fully realize. Organizing your life was never really about planners, calendars, schedules, or productivity systems. Those things can help, but they were never the true goal. The real goal, the one that has been hiding behind every chapter you have heard, is becoming a person who has control. Not control over everything that happens. No one has that. Not control over other people, the economy, or unexpected events. The control that matters most, the only control that truly changes your life, is control over yourself. Think about everything you have learned along this journey. You faced reality honestly instead of hiding from it. You stopped avoiding the things that needed your attention. You worked on areas of life that had been neglected for years. You learned how to start your day with purpose instead of reaction. You cleared distractions that were silently stealing your focus. You reorganized your priorities so your actions finally matched your values. You committed to finishing what you started. You built a life that feels manageable instead of crushing. You learned how to stay consistent even during the hardest days. Every single one of those lessons points toward one outcome: personal control. The ability to direct your life instead of simply reacting to it. Many people spend years hoping circumstances will improve on their own. They wait for motivation. They wait for confidence. They wait for someone to hand them the answers. Meanwhile, time keeps moving forward. The people who create real, lasting change eventually stop waiting. They take ownership. They focus on what they can control and release what they cannot. A person with self-control understands that emotions are real, but they do not have to lead every decision. Setbacks happen, but they do not have to become permanent. Fear may appear, but it does not get to choose your actions. One of the most powerful feelings in life is knowing you can trust yourself, knowing that when you make a commitment, you follow through, knowing that when a challenge appears, you respond instead of running. That trust is not purchased or borrowed. It is earned through action. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens it. Every responsibility you handle reinforces it. Over time, something beautiful happens. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to get organized. You start seeing yourself as an organized person. You stop viewing yourself as someone who struggles with discipline. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. There will still be challenges ahead. There will still be unexpected storms. But you will face them differently now because you understand something powerful. Organization is not about controlling every outcome. It is about controlling your preparation, your habits, your effort, and your response. The person who has control is not the person with the easiest life. It is the one who takes ownership, the one who stays focused when distractions appear, the one who keeps moving forward when excuses would be easier. Become that person. Build that identity. Protect that mindset. Because the more control you develop over yourself, the less control chaos has over your life. And that is where the strongest version of you is waiting.